let's talk about debt collection. Today, I'm very lucky to have Leanne Powley from Credit Control on call here to help us understand a little bit more about what debt collection is. So thank you so much for coming in today, Leanne.
Thanks for the invite.
So the first question that I'd like to ask is, when would a property manager or an agency, need debt collection agencies?
Well, the whole aim is to educate them so that they don't need it. So it's about them putting the procedures in place. But also sometimes property managers, they've got this relationship with their tenants and they've struggled to ask for payment. So it's about getting the right steps in place for them to doing the right process in the first place, and then two, if they do need help, to do the right steps. It's not as daunting as it seems.
What are some of the areas that property managers could improve in or make sure they're doing in order to make the collection side of things easy?
It's about gathering the right information at the start. At the start of a tenancy, you've got a relationship with these tenants. So it's about drawing as much information from them at the time. So, photo ID, next of kin, someone that's not living in the property, that could be mum, dad, someone else. That is a connection because usually you stay in contact with your family. But also everyone living in the flat, have we got their contact details, their photo ID? Because again, they will have a connection. So the whole idea is to always be thinking when you start that relationship, if everything went pear-shaped and they did a runner, how could we get hold of them?
So preparing for that worst case scenario,
exactly.
Not
so
being a doom and gloom.
No, but it is basically information gathering for that, just in case. There's always someone that knows someone that can get hold of. And hey, if you've done all your checks and balances, 9 times out of 10 it's fine, but there might be that one time that you do need to do something else.
Yeah, cool. So making sure that you have good systems in place for collecting that information,
and making sure that if you as a property manager are too soft and don't enjoying that someone within the team, whether it be yourself or someone else, is following up on arrears, and it's not just the rent, it could be water and things outstanding as well, that they're following up every couple of days, because all of a sudden a week's gone by and that week's rent becomes 2 weeks rent, and that's a lot of money these days.
And that makes it harder obviously for the tenant to get back on the right side of being behind rent.
And also landlords have got mortgages to pay and they've got bigger too, so a sale's not a sale till the money's in the bank, baby.
Okay, so when should a property manager lodge a tenancy tribunal application about mediation?
So to me, it's always going back to that relationship to start off with. You want to be touching base with them. You want to understand why haven't they paid? Is it just that the boss hasn't put the money in today, or is there a legitimate problem, or is there something else going on? So if you've already got a relationship with that tenant, it is about using that relationship. And okay, if they say that I'll put it in the bank tomorrow and it doesn't, and that's happening a couple of times, it's making sure that you do the right thing. So I always say that, in this day and age, you can't just say it on a verbal and a handshake. You've got to follow up. So, okay, I've had a conversation with you, you're going to pay it tomorrow, follow up with an email. And then each time you're replying to that email, you're replying to that, so that you're creating a history, so that if it goes to mediation, you've got the history there. And also it's making them accountable by putting it to mediation for the sake of $20. You're saying, well, I've given you this much and this is all the communication we had. I've had no choice but to take it to mediation, and then out of that mediation having a call for action. So okay, if they don't make this payment plan or it doesn't happen, what next?
Because if you missed that step and you give them too many chances, I'm guessing
one they take the proverbial, but also meanwhile they're basically taking you for granted.
And then you're going to have to be explaining this to an owner.
Exactly, an owner that's got a mortgage to pay. And that's the thing.
And I mean, owners take you on board as a property manager so that they don't have to deal with this.
Well, exactly. We are the property managers are the middleman between tenants, and I would say if a landlord is happy and a tenant's happy, then everybody's happy. Right?
That's so true. Okay, so what happens if they still don't pay?
So the whole 3 strikes scenario. So you've followed up with in letters, they've done that. So over a 3-month period, they haven't been paying. You've been to mediation, they haven't stuck to that. It's about pushing to that next step. So taking it from mediation to eviction. So at the time of lodging that, you were saying it's already gone to mediation, you want it to go straight to eviction. And from there. So again, it's not a huge cost. It's just about knowing the procedures and putting it in place, but also having that conversation with the tenant that you leave us no choice but to do this. because again, all of a sudden they might find money, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if they're informed along the way, and the landlords are informed along the way about what will happen next if things don't come into play, then everybody's on the same page.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all this modern technology that exists in the world, do you guys still go and door-to-door knock for debt collection?
If we have to. So most of the time you can get hold of people via email or text or phone or whatever, that kind of scenario. Sometimes a hard copy in the post, someone will get it that way, because all their other information might have changed. Especially young ones, they change their phone number and their email addresses. So, but also it is a quick way of door knocking and the post of seeing whether they're still living there or not.
Yeah.
And again, if property managers do have a relationship with their tenants, that'll bring it to a head quickly. If they get there and they're not there, then that's, you know, then they know that. So then they know that they have to get on to the next step quick smart, because, you know, they're still got to re-tenant that property. And
yes, that's kind of becomes apparent.
Yeah, exactly.
So can a debt collector legally add their charges onto the debt and penalties for non-payment?
So as long as it is part of the terms and conditions, so where you're thinking not a property manager's scenario, you're the plumber, as long as it's in their terms of trade, you can do that. And same with the tenancy agreement. If they've got that in there and you've been to mediation and said, look, if this isn't paid, all fees will be on charge, then it's documented, it's there, so you can do that.
So that would be at the start to make sure that...
Yeah, again, it's about right at the beginning of the tenancy, that tenants know their expectations, basically.
Setting those expectations, making everyone aware, worst case scenario, this is what could happen.
This is what's expected of you to be a great tenant. Yeah.
That would be nice. Do debt collectors belong to any formal industry body? Like, do you have to be licensed to be a debt collector?
Like every industry, it's going that way. So, and it gets rid of the cowboys, right? It's like property managers having to be, you know, registered now. It gets rid of the cowboys and it makes people accountable, but not as yet. Same thing, but it is heading that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I've learned a lot about debt collection. Is there anything else that you want to add on top of that?
Yeah, I just think it is about property managers knowing that until the landlord gets the money in the bank, it's not a done deal. So if they haven't done that process, they're not doing their job right. So it is about getting the right steps in place and making the right decision at the beginning quite often too. You know, it's about making that original, you know, that initial best choice based on the information you've given. I mean, there will be the occasional one that isn't the person you thought it was put in, or you know, that really aren't what they said they were. Yeah. Then it is about acting quickly, because quite often people put it in the too hard basket, and it is all of a sudden it becomes a bigger problem than it is.
1 week goes to 4 weeks.
And also those tenants, those tenants are the other ones that are possibly going to damage the house and things like that. So then you've got all your extra costs on top, and not only the missing rent.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is about making sure it's documented, photos, you know, so that if it gets to court stage, you have got all the information you need. It's about, and quite often, hey, you forget what you did yesterday. So by documenting along the way, there's no if buts and maybes. That's there, and there's photos to prove this, there's bills to cover this, or these are my communications.
So even what I'm getting from you is, even if you talk to a tenant about anything to do with collection of money and that, follow it up with that email so that it's written and everybody's received it. We've all got the same information, and it's going to help you if it does go to that worst case scenario.
Absolutely. Covering your butt.
Yeah, covering your butt. Okay, well, that's it. That's all I have to ask today. I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having us.